Hello and welcome to DAO Watch. This is the first episode of a new series that I'm starting, which is only going to focus on DAOs, proposals, governance, and all the other good stuff. I'm Cryptosi. My background is I was a team member of PIVX for a number of years, which is one of the earliest DAOs, and I now have founded Bidify, and I do other crypto stuff. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to look at three proposals from three different DAOs. We're going to look at firstly one from Dash, which is a DAO that uses the masternode system. Secondly, we're going to look at one from PIVX, which is the project that I used to work on. I'm very familiar with. And finally, we're going to look at a proposal from Evmos. We was going to look at one from a massive DAO like a Uniswap or a Curve, but there's so much more around that. I decided to leave that for a second episode. So in the next episode, we'll look at one of the really big DAOs. But for now, we're going to focus on the smaller DAOs. And the reason why is so that we get to understand some of the nuances of both making proposals, and in actually appraising these proposals. It's not quite as straightforward as people would like to think. In the description, I'm going to leave this link to what a DAO is, or you could just Google what is a DAO. I'm not going to explain it, the basics of it here. This is probably not the place. The reason why I'm making this video, it's not to garner views or whatnot, it's to be a tool. So the idea is that you watch these videos and they help you to smooth out the friction that is caused by different people coming together with different ways of thinking that have got different ideas about how to achieve the same thing. If that's not mouthful enough. Right, so let's get into this. So the first proposal is from the Dash core group, and it's for their compensation. Let's pull it up here. I guess this will be an audio and a video, so if you're just listening to the audio, it's probably best you watch the video, but I'm going to talk through it anyway for the people who are purely listening on audio, because I want to talk through it. Right, okay, so the Dash Core Group, they've got a funding proposal, and the funding proposal seems to last for, looks like a period of months. Excuse me. So they fund. Right, so let's go. Right, so what does this specific proposal fund? This proposal funds Dash Core Group's ongoing compensation costs, including developers, administrative, business development, marketing, and support staff. So it's quite a lot of things being put into one proposal. To summarize it in a single sentence, this proposal, it pays the devs, it pays the support team, and it pays the marketing teams. So what this proposal does is it takes money from the Dash Treasury. If the proposal passes, takes money from the Dash Treasury, and it pays the developers, it pays the support team, and it pays the marketing team. The amount that they're requesting at the time of me researching this was 2,296 Dash, which is roughly around 100,000 US dollars. The total Dash budget is around 192,000 US dollars. So it's just over half of the entire budget will go to this particular core team. Now, what I want to do with each of these proposals, I want to briefly look at the pros, then look at the cons, and then say whether or not I'll be supporting this particular proposal and why, or why not. With this particular one, let's look at the pros first of all. Now, one of the main pros is that it's a very simple proposal. It's not going to take you a long time to decide whether or not you feel like the Dash core group are doing a good job, whether or not they deserve to continue being paid, or not, and then you simply vote yes or no. It's one of the proposals which is generally going to pass. For some of those, one of the main reasons I would say is that the pricing is very competitive. If you're looking to, if you've got a knowledge of the crypto landscape and how much it costs to get good developers on board, to get the amount of developers that they do have on board for this price, is they're getting a lot of, as we like to say, bang for their buck. So they are, it is efficient. It's an efficient way of spending treasury funds. Now, you also have to take into account whether or not the payout will impact the price. Now, to do that, what we usually would do is, I'll do this now actually, is we would go to a tool like CoinGecko. Yeah. Go to a tool like CoinGecko. We'd look at Dash. This doesn't always work, and I'll explain why when we get onto Evmos. But we'd look at Dash in CoinGecko, and we would look at the 24-hour trading volume, which is about 45 million. A lot of that is going to be wash trading. But the point is, if you dip $100,000 into 45 million, you're not going to rock the boat. So what you want to also consider when you're considering a proposal is, will the proposal impact the price of this particular project, or any linked projects, as we will get onto in Evmos, because there's a really great opportunity. I'm going to put timestamps in there, so if you're like, oh, I'm struggling to keep up now, let me just hear the opportunity, you can skip to the Evmos one, but you'll do well to bear with me. So we know that it won't impact the price because Dash is currently has a 24-hour trading volume of 45 million. So spending 100,000 is not going to move the price up or down. Generally, when you spend it money, it's moving the price down. People are going to cash it in unless they've explicitly said otherwise. Okay, so let's go back here. You can continue reading as I talk, but now let's get on to the cons. And the cons are quite nuanced. And the reason why I really pick at these cons is because of my experience within PIVX and some of the discussions that we had, and the way that we, I would say, advanced the Dash governance system a little. I don't want to get flamed for this because we didn't technically change much, but socially we did make quite a few changes. Now, one of the main cons from my point of view is that the core group is simply too large. It's very rare you would have a company with a market cap, in Dash's case of, what's the market cap? In Dash's case of $470 million, $470 million company, let's say. It's not really accurate, to be honest with you, because I guess a whole currency is not really a company. But it's very rare that you'd have companies even remotely close to this sort of size which would have a marketing team, support team, and a development team all clustered into one. Now, the problem that you've got when you cluster them into one is that some people will get a free ride, and it doesn't encourage competition, and it doesn't encourage, it doesn't incentivize improvements, doesn't incentivize efficiency. For example, the development team at Dash Core, they aren't under much pressure. There's not much chance of another development team coming in and saying, okay, we'll take it from here. Here's our proposal. We've got developers who are better, and you should now vote for us. The chances of that working are slim to none for a bunch of social reasons, which we'll probably get onto in other episodes. Also, that being said, if the development team have got basically their incumbents, I've never seen a development team get downvoted. I think maybe once somebody done it as a threat, but I've never seen it happen. The support team and the marketing team, as long as they're allied with that particular bunch of developers, they also then get a free ride. Now, the support team could be terrible. They don't need to start considering new ideas to do anything. They're just there. So their support could be as simple as, we've got a wiki, which we paid for years ago, which has got stuff in there, which doesn't really change because the actual platform isn't changing that rapidly. And we help people in Discord. The end. They may set up a ticketing system. I'm not that sure. I've not needed support from Dash because I've been in Dash for too long. And then the marketing team, who, once again, it's a very competitive sector, a sector where you're expecting to adapt very quickly, to change very quickly. And for some periods of time, I dare say this particular marketing team for Dash would not have been up to scratch. They wouldn't have been the best possible option. There would have been other marketing teams that would have done a better job during that time. But to replace the marketing team, you also have to replace the support and the development team. For me, this is too vague. It's too, not vague, it's too broad. It's too broad in scope. The proposal is too broad in scope, and it definitely needs to be broken down into development, proposal, support, proposal, marketing, proposal. It does mean that the voters have got a lot more work to do, but it also means that you're going to get much better results because you're going to get the specific best team for each specific job. Now, there are issues with that these teams have to liaise with each other, so you don't want it changing every month. You don't want the marketing team to change all the time. You don't want the support team to change every time. There is a period of time where transition needs to take place, and during that time you're not going to get the best out of whoever is in that role. So you don't want to be changing all the time, but you at least want to be able to change the parts individually. Another problem with this proposal, which is a problem with pretty much all the proposals, is that it's priced in Dash. So they can put forward this proposal over 3 months. During that time, Bitcoin can go down to $12,000. Bitcoin goes down to $12,000. Dash will go down to $30, and instead of getting 100,000, they're going to get 60,000, and that's a big drop. So that will cause issues for some of the developers there. It will cause issues for some of the potential developers who would have seen this and decided, okay, that's too risky for me. I need more job security, and it's basically a problem. Unfortunately, at the moment, there's no way to solve this problem with the way Dash is configured. It's just the way it is, but it has to be noted. Okay, so my decision. What am I going to vote on this proposal? I'm going to vote no, and the reason why I'm going to vote no is because, as I said, it has to be split down into 3 separate parts to allow the various groups to compete and to foster competition, especially for marketing and support. For development, as you become more accustomed with crypto and you start to understand the development process more, you realize that changing a development team is very, very difficult. Even with open source, even when all the code is there, it takes a long time to learn the code base, etc., etc. However, marketing and support, those are things that I feel there should be more competition for, and the 3 things should not be all bundled together. There should be 3 separate proposals headed up by 3 separate people, and the 3 separate people should have and develop better ways to interact with each other. So that wraps up the Dash proposal, and it's a resounding no from me. You also get to have discussion on should we fund this proposal. I'm going to actually join this discussion, and I'm going to put a link to this video in here, and I'm going to say I'm saying no, and I'm going to say why, and I'm going to say if people have got varying opinions, they can comment in the comments below on my video, or which will be a lot better, they could comment in the thread on the proposal. Somebody would have made this observation that I make, and somebody would have made it before. One thing with DAOs is whenever you think of something in any DAO as old as Dash, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the first DAO of its type. People would argue Bitcoin, but you know, semantics. I would say that Dash is the first DAO of its type, and whenever you think of something in a DAO this old, you have to really expect that the people who are already in the DAO have heard your suggestion before. So there's a good chance that one of these guys, Quizzy, for example, who seems to be active, will say, yes, we've heard that before, and the reason why we're not going to is X. I will argue back or not. You know, we'll discuss, and then who knows, maybe some change will happen. Let's move on to the second proposal, which is for PIVX. Now, this proposal was created by a guy called Eric Stanek. I know him pretty well. He's been in PIVX for a long time. Now, this proposal seeks to initiate an alliance with the BlockDX team to support PIVX on their decks. Now, let me tell you a little bit about alliances. Alliances are basically partnerships. You know, a company would have a partnership with another company, or a crypto project might have a partnership with another company. Recently, let me think, Near Protocol had a partnership announced with Google Cloud. Okay, well, Near are massive, so they have massive partnerships. PIVX are tiny, so they have tiny partnerships. Now, the difference between the alliances and the regular partnerships is Alliance Protocol is something that I actually had a big hand in making. I was helped by a Colombian guy whose name I've forgotten. I can't remember his name, but shout out to him. The idea with alliances is that you can have partnerships between two decentralized entities, or one decentralized entity and a centralized entity, by putting the proposal for an alliance up for a vote and getting the consensus of the members of the DAO. Therefore, the DAO is officially in alliance because the DAO members said so, as opposed to what we had before where partnerships were grandfathered in. So the founder of PIVX previously said we're gonna grandfather in an alliance with no, they just called it a partnership with a company. The company turned out to be a scam. The guy who ran the scam went to prison, and you know, it was bad for us. It was bad because one guy made a mistake. It didn't get the oversight or the wisdom of a crowd that DAOs have got. So if you've got it, use it, right? So you ask the DAO, shall we ally with this particular project, and if we should, like why we should, and what are the parameters of that. Now, this particular proposal, I want to leave it on the screen and you can have a read. Well, let me make sure. Yeah. To summarize, yeah, it's a partnership with BlockDX, and it's a strange one because it's not the actual partnership. He's kind of put this proposal forward to try and get consensus, to try and understand whether or not it's something that the DAO would be interested in. I'm not a fan of this. I did try to do something similar during my time, and I was told not to because it's not really the correct usage of the masternode system. I'm not going to explain what the masternode system is in this video. We'll go over it in another one. So that's another reason to come back. The amount he's requested is $600. Now, this part is it's good because it's a small amount. Again, he's requested it in PIV, so if PIV goes up, it's going to become a much larger amount. If it goes down, it's going to become a much smaller amount. But I'm quite sure he's put a buffer in there. So he's asked for 600, but for what he's asking it for, I don't think they're going to really need 600. The total budget for PIVX this voting cycle, which is this month. So this month it's about $13,000. So it's not much, tiny budget in comparison to Dash, and ridiculously small in comparison to Evmos or Uniswap or one of the really big DAOs. Daily volume is around $1 million, so we can't expect this $600 proposal to move the price. So we'll just jump straight into the pros and cons. Whilst we're doing that, I'm just going to scroll this down a little bit so that you can read a little bit more of the proposal. Let's just consider the pros and cons. Now, the pros are obviously that alliances it's a great way for decentralized projects to announce partnerships. I'm obviously a fan of alliances, hence the reason why I decided that that's the right way to do things. PIVX desperately needs DEX support. It's a privacy project and it's a small project and it's a unique project, which means it can be all three things which make it a target. It can be low-hanging fruit because they could get attacked by the powers that be, like Tornado Cash was. Why else does it need DEX support? Sorry, I've lost my trail of thought. Oh, well, yeah, I've lost my trail of thought there, so never mind. Okay, well, PIVX basically, it does need DEX support because, yeah, it is private. It is something that could be targeted by the powers that be, and then that will be bad news for them. With a DEX, it would mean that obviously you could trade PIVX with Bitcoin easily without any third party. The onboarding would be a lot easier because it's easy to onboard into Bitcoin from fiat, and that will never change because there's too much big money in Bitcoin. What will happen is what they would do is they would say all the exchanges, centralized exchanges like Binance and I think they're on BitThumb, maybe KuCoin, they would all delist PIVX, and then the volume falls through the floor and the project, it would be on life support at that point. Now, the cons of this is that the alliance system, I would say now, is possibly outdated, maybe a little bit naive considering the advances with regulation and legislation. When the alliance system was fought up some years ago, legislation wasn't where it is today. There wasn't as much thought going into DAOs. There's now, like, I watch a video vlog series called the Stanford DAO Composium, which is like a top university in the United States. So all these big brains are doing PhDs in DAOs and these sorts of setups. So the legislation has come on, the thought processes behind it has come on, and because I got kicked out of PIVX, but PIVX is still using a system which is years old and hasn't really progressed with the times. So that's one of the cons. It's not stated within the proposal whether or not BlocksDX has a legal structure. Where legislation is now, we know that even if you create a DAO, if you're the creator of the DAO or if you're the user of a certain DApp, which a DAO is essentially, or probably will be named as such in the future, you can be sanctioned, which means the Americans could use force against you. So we don't know where BlockDX is. Are they a legal structure? That needs to be clarified. Does it put the members of the DAO, the people who vote on such a thing, does it put them in harm's way if you decide to partner up with an entity like BlockDX, which could then become a sanctioned entity? Does it make us all the people who voted yes accessories to some sort of thing, or all the people who are even voters after the vote becomes yes because you're a member of the DAO, you're a member of a criminal organization, or you're a member of an organization which has interacted with a sanctioned party, X, Y, and Z. I don't think this can be done retrospectively, but it's good to have clarity, and in this proposal there's no clarity. I think possibly it might not be needed at this stage, so maybe we could get this clarity at a later stage, but thought piece. So it's one of the things that I would consider when looking at a proposal, and I say these things not to say whether or not something is right or wrong, but just to share my thought process and help you to develop thought processes of your own that maybe are a little bit outside of your, I'll say, cognitive background. On this one, I'm going to vote yes. I don't think it requires a vote. I think the $600 could have and probably should have been privately funded or even crowdfunded. You can, and we had done before, put something in the Discord or on Twitter and say, we're thinking about doing this. Come and discuss it. If you want it to happen, donate to this particular address, and you'd probably get to $600 pretty quick within PIVX. The counter argument to that is that you shouldn't always rely on altruism, because then you've got certain people who always donate, and those are generally the deepest pockets, and then they want to control what's happening because they have donated, so effectively they paid for it. Then you kind of get a bit of a skewed outcome. So there's swings and roundabouts. For that reason, I would have voted yes. I think it would have definitely been better as a pre-proposal discussion and not a proposal within itself, but PIVX currently doesn't have that many proposals, so this one is not going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. What we don't want is, we don't want to be giving the DAO members too many things to think about. There's a term called panarchy, which is where you get everybody to vote on everything. That's hard work for the people who are voting, because you need to know a lot of stuff. You need to know a lot about a lot. Not a lot of people know a lot about a lot. So, I'd say it's better as a pre-proposal discussion, but yet still, I'm personally gonna vote yes on it, because I think it will be good to see what they come up with when they've had a little bit of funding, so whoever it is can take a few days off to look at it properly and say, how can we move forward together? Then the actual proposal will probably come in and look very good, I would say. Very good, because you've got a proposal which has been funded, and that's not something that happens often. Okay, finally, last one. I'm aware of the time. Congratulations for sticking with us for this long. For the last one, we are going to look into Evmos. Now, when I done my research, I was going to make this video about a week ago, but life got in the way. This had not yet passed, but I'm going to keep it on here because this, for me, is, there's so much to be learned from this. It's, I would say, it's a controversial proposal, right? It's a controversial proposal. I won't say it's a bad proposal because it has passed. They done a great job of explaining all of the things that they wanted to do and why. And okay, let's just discuss this proposal. So the proposal is to kickstart DeFi on Evmos. Evmos is a Tendermint-based chain, so it's one of the Cosmos chains in the Cosmos ecosystem. It's one of those ones where you can easily bridge between all of these other chains, and the IBC bridge is yet to be busted, and I can't see it being busted. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to go on record and say that. So if it does get busted, you can put me on the cut that little part out and be like, yeah, we told you. But I don't think it's going to get busted. What they want to do is they want to fund tiny little DEX on Evmos. The DEX is called Diffusion. The proposal seeks a lot of money to fund this, and to fund this, these tokens are a portion of the stake reward and also the returning of the airdrop, which was supposed to be given to Evmos holders. I'm one of the people who would be funding this because I didn't claim all of my airdrop. So the part of my airdrop which I didn't claim is going to go back into the treasury, and then it then funds proposals like this one. They're asking for 2 million Evmos, which, well, at the time was around, I think it was around $4 million. Let's see, we'll see where Evmos is now. I think Evmos has moved down a little bit since then. Excuse me. Okay, yeah, so it's around around little over $3 million. So we can get onto the plan of action. which is that they want to move this Evmos into a Gnosis safe looked after by multi-sig, which has got, I think it's like 4 or 5 different people. Says down here, multi-sig's managed by 5 people, so they're going to need 3 out of 5. That's not good in itself, because the Evmos DAO governance members make up 3 out of the 5. Yeah, they do. And they could do something they want by themselves, so they've got pretty much veto power, which I guess makes some sense. It means that people can't pull the money from under them if people outside of the DAO members or DAO governance members decide to collude. So the 2 million is safe. So I'm thinking aloud here. Something that, and this happens when you reread proposals, different things jump out at you, and this is one of them. The safety of this 2 million, and I think it is safe. I think it's a better way to do it. Now I understand why they've done it this way. So this money is going to be moved into this multi-sig over the course of 90 days. So they're not going to do it all at once, which is a good thing, because a 2 million into 24-hour trading volume of 1.7 million, you can move that price. So that could definitely be moved. If they move all of that from there into another project, which would be, in this case, diffusion, they could move that price. So they're going to do it over a course of 90 days. This shows that they've thought this through, right? They're looking at it. These guys are no mugs. Let's say these guys are no mugs, which is good to see. They're going to be allocating the incentives on various DeFi pairs. The way DeFi works, for those who are not familiar, is you have what's known as the decentralized exchange. People will put Evmos as the token on one side, and in this particular case they'll put wrapped BTC on the other side. People can trade between BTC and Evmos. When they think BTC is going up, they'll buy BTC. When they think it's going down, they'll trade back into Evmos, or their stable coins that they could use. And people do it. It's I do it. It's technically just gambling, but like sometimes something good is happening, or you'd have a load of down days in a row and you're like, okay, the market's not going to go down forever, it's going to change. I'm going to move some of my stable into Bitcoin, or the market's not going to go up forever, I'm going to move some of my Bitcoin into stable. And people do that. It's a done thing, right? It's massive. DeFi is huge. So they're going to put it into these things, and then they're going to pay people out, blah, 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 blah. And the idea is that it just gets more people using diffusion or DeFi and Evmos. But in particular, this one particular small DEX, and it is a tiny DEX. So, I'm not going to go on to that yet. Before I do, we can see with this one, because it's one we made earlier, this one passed unanimously. Well, pretty much unanimously. 97.9% of the votes were yes, which was 70 million Evmos against only 400,000, which was a no. A lot of people abstained. Almost a million voters abstained, and no with a veto was a very small amount. And I don't know who they are, but I'm assuming they would say no, because diffusion is too small, and you're putting too much money into too small of a project. It's been done. It's a Uniswap V2 fork. The first DEX, and by far the largest in TVL before the Nomad hack. It doesn't have a an audit or anything like that. So luckily it is a fork, so we know it's safe. But it's a lot of money to be putting into a project that is this small. There's not much talk in the proposal about who the team behind it is. I guess it is down to you to do your own research on the actual platform. I know from experience, making a platform like this doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of resources. It's not a very difficult thing to do. So there's no real thing to say that these guys can't, or they don't have the rug pull code within this particular fork. The rug pull code is, it was an upgrade code to say that you could move all of the liquidity from all of the contracts on a DEX. So all of the liquidity that people have put in to get these incentives, they can move it from there. This was a V2 feature, as far as I remember. They can move it from there to other contracts because they might want to upgrade. So when you upgrade from one thing to another, you need to move it from one contract to another. Now, there was code that allowed you to do that. Now, obviously, that can be exploited because instead of moving it to the next iteration of the DEX, you could just move it into your own wallet, and then you've stolen all the money. That's why they called it the rug pull code, because you could rug pull. Now, we know that I think they're using a version of Uniswap that, I don't know if it does contain the rug pull code or not, actually, come to think of it. But that is something that I would worry about, and that I would like to ask, or I should have asked before this proposal passed, but I didn't really see where the discussion was, because it's not on here. It's in a place called I don't know what it's called, not the Cosmoverse, the Commonwealth, they call it. Yeah, there we go, Commonwealth. Kickstart, DeFi, and Evmos. So you can actually see the conversation here. If you open up the Commonwealth, which is a very slow site, might need to get Rocket Sloth onto this. So yeah, here it is again. But it's basically the same thing, but here we got discussions. Chart is unreadable. So there's discussion, right? And this is where the real nitty-gritty takes place. And this is really, if you're really into your DAOs, this is where you want to be. You want to be on these sorts of forums. Okay. I've got a timestamp here. Let's look at the opportunity. So, me with my my shark-like mentality, when I saw this, and I saw this was such a tiny thing, I thought, okay, well, if you're going to put so much incentives, you're going to put so much liquidity into such a small platform, let's see how big the platform is. I saw that it was small. Let's look at Diffusion. Now, Diffusion is a tiny platform. The 24-hour trading volume is $8,000. So $8,000 got traded in the last 24 hours. You compare that to Dash, which was 45 million, or Evmos itself, which is 1.7 million. You can see, it's interesting, actually. Interesting note here. Evmos has a 500 million market cap and only 1 million in trading volume. Dash has a 400 million market cap and 45 million in trading volume. The lower the trading volume, the more volatile this asset can be, right? So something like this with such a high market cap and such a low trading volume, it's a bit of a red flag for me, I'm not going to lie. Also, what you have to take into account, which I don't think I have, so I think I might make myself look a little bit silly here, is what markets is CoinGecko taking this information from? If we click markets here, I hope I'm not going too far. No, it is taking. It's taking. I was assuming it wasn't taking Osmosis on board, but it is taking Osmosis on board. So, yeah. Interesting. So it looks like Diffusion is the second, fourth, but second DEX. I'm just looking to see how popular Diffusion is. But anyway, yeah, so this trading volume is very low. So I would be wary about that number, right? Because the trading volume is so low. If we go to Diffusion, the trading volume is even lower. As a percentage of the market cap, 100. As a percentage of the market cap, it's around the same, or maybe even a smaller percentage of the market cap. Anyway, 8,000 is tiny. I could move this price myself. Most of the people watching this video, you can move the price. Just throw 20 grand at it, you're going to move this price. So, that being said, if they're going to put 2 million at it, at something with such a tiny trading volume, how are they possibly going to add these incentives in a timely fashion without moving this price? The answer is they can't. It's not going to happen. So, whilst this proposal was going on, Cryptosi, the clever clogs, he's decided to go and buy some of this diffusion. At the time, the price was 2 cents. And if I click that, if it will show me the old price or the new price. That shows me the new price. So we'll sack that off. At the time, it was 2 cents, and you can see, because you're looking at the proposal, so you know what's going to happen next, you can see that they're going to then pump, even if they don't put all of the money into it, which they probably will, because I can't see a competitor being born over the next 90 days, but that's another opportunity. They don't have another competitor. $2 million is going into this thing, which takes $8,000 on board per day. This price is going to move. It's going to move 100%, providing this price holds. Now, this has dropped a lot. I think it's dropped like 50% in the past month, let's say. What's it done in the past month? Let's look at 30 days. So yeah, from $3, just over $3, just down to 160. That's literally 50% drop over the past. Well, not too far off all-time lows, which is a pretty good sign. But the project itself is still quite young. I'm really jumping all over the place, aren't I? Let me get back on track. This opportunity, and the reason why I start to talk faster when it comes to opportunities, so my blood starts pumping and I really get excited by these things. So I bought it at 2 cents, knowing full well you can see it because of the proposal, and you can see the proposal if it's passing or not. You know, a lot of money is going to flood into this tiny project. You see an opportunity in action. That's why it pays to be involved in DAOs, and it pays to watch the proposals unfold and understand the ecosystems that you're in. It's now at just under 4 cents. I think it's touched 4 cents. There's some issue with IBC at the moment. The proposals passed. They clearly haven't started to load up this particular exchange because the trading volume is still so low. But at some point, this trading volume is going to move from 8,000 to 50,000, 20,000, because they're going to have to start moving it into diffusion so that they can create these incentives, or people are going to start buying diffusion so that they can be parts of this new DEX, which is now getting a whole heap of liquidity added to it. There are other parts to it. I didn't ape into this because we don't know how the economics of diffusion works, or this diffusion token. I looked for it, but I couldn't find it. The tokenomics data for this coin is currently unavailable. So when it's a situation like that, you don't know who owns all the coins. You don't know who's going to dump it. You don't know what's going to happen. So don't ape in it. It's a tiny project. It could get hacked tomorrow. There could be vulnerabilities in there that have been known for a long time that they just haven't accounted for or fixed. They could be running an old version. We don't really know what's going on to a massive degree. So although it seems like a no-brainer, we don't know what we don't know. But currently the price is at 0.38, and I'm going to show off here. I bought at 2 cents, so you doubled your money. And this was on the 3rd of October, and today's the 10th. So that's a week. You double your money in a week. Unfortunately, this can't make you a millionaire because you can't ape into this because the volume is so low. If you try to buy $100,000 worth of this stuff, you're going to move the price your damn self. And I dare say there are some people who are really, they want to ape in, but they can't. You could do OTC, I guess. And that's definitely going on. There will definitely be people doing that right now. Or you can move the price or try to gently in there. I'm surprised it's still at 8,000 with this having passed so long ago. I would have expected it to move a lot more by now. But that's just an example of where you get to see these sorts of opportunities. And yeah, you can take advantage of it. Did I discuss? I don't think I did. Yeah. Okay. So away from that, back to the vote itself, and let me bring back up the proposal. I'll leave it at the bottom. with regards to future plans and a little bit about diffusion. 2 million Evmos less than 1.5% of our available funds and covers an entire DEX, including interchain assets on Evmos. It's amazing that their funds are so they've got so much funds. The funding on this project is it's scary. Problem is, like I said, the liquidity is not very big, and if you start paying people to do stuff, that price is going to go down pretty quickly. I decided, as far as this one is concerned, that I'm going to vote no. So, yeah, part of that could well have been me. The reason why I'm voting no is because it's a huge amount of tokens to put into a relatively shallow amount of liquidity. The period that the incentives are lasting for is quite short in the life cycle of a DAO. If we consider this DAO to last as long as Dash, which is, I would say, I don't know if Dash started 2014, maybe, so Dash is maybe 8 years old. And this is not a sustainable way to do things. So you won't be able to do this for 8 years. It is called kick off Evmos DeFi. So the idea is that you can do this to kick it off, but then there's always going to be the issue that once you've kicked it off, what is going to get people to stay? And there's nothing in this proposal that says what is going to get people to stay. So you're going to constantly need these sorts of incentives to get people to come. And these incentives are being born out of an airdrop, which that money is not everlasting. So after that, it's going to be inflationary. They're just all bad things. They're so many bad things on top of each other. It becomes like they call it the old DeFi death spiral. Interesting idea though, and with diffusion being down 90% in the last 30 days, it's a great time to buy it. It's probably a great time to put in this liquidity because now we know the true value of diffusion. Tiny little project, tiny little market cap, tiny little volume. So on that side, it's good. But for me, I would say no. I'd say the amount that they're doing is too much. And I would say the long-term prospects of kicking off the DeFi in this way are not good. If this was proposed, and I always say this is a bad idea, but I'm going to do it. If this was proposed alongside some sort of grant system or something like that. I know Evmos has a grant system, but there seems to be no projects built out of it. Then I would say it would have been a better proposal. So for the long term of Evmos, I would say this is a bad proposal, which is why I would vote no. However, for the short term of Evmos, and we've got to be here for the YOLOs, it's great, and that's why most people said yes. How many individual people would have said yes to get to that 70 million votes thing? I think we can see here who the biggest voters were and what they put in. Can we see who were the biggest yes votes? No, it doesn't show. I don't think it shows. I don't think it shows. But I don't think it would be much. Evmos is a young chain, so although it's 97%, I don't think the numbers between the amount of people who voted no and the amount of people who voted yes would be that different. There's going to be some gigantic whales in Evmos still, and the gigantic whales have obviously voted yes. Some of them may be the people who put forward this proposal. We don't know. It definitely happens in other projects where whales put forward proposals and then vote on them. And they've got enough power, especially in such a young project as Evmos, to just sway the thing. Some people see it as an attack. It has been labelled as such, as an attack in the past. And some people, just accept that's the way it is. That's the way young DAOs are. I'm in the latter camp. So I guess that wraps up this first episode after 50 minutes of me rambling. I hope it wasn't too talky. Definitely going to have to put timestamps in. Like I said, next episode we're going to look at some of the bigger, not newer, bigger, and definitely older, bigger DAOs. We're going to look at Dash again. We're going to look at PIVX again. We're going to look at Evmos again, and then every episode we're going to bring in a guest DAO, and we're going to move across ecosystems, so we hopefully get different styles of ideas. I'm also going to look more at the discussion behind these ideas and see how we can improve our thoughts and how we can improve DAOs. Anybody who's watched this and thinks it's a great idea poorly executed, I really would like you to do better. That would be great. This is not one of those YouTube videos that's going to catch on. I don't have the fluorescent lights in the background. You know, I'm not tech broy, so this is more of a tool, and it should be something that hopefully gets a small following, and we get to discuss these sorts of things and improve our proposal making and improve our proposal understanding, improve the efficiency of the proposals, because this is not a technical problem, this is a social problem. I think that might become my catchphrase. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Cryptosi, and I am out of here.